Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TSMO and Public Communications webinar. My name is Ahnaf Morshed, and I will help facilitate today's webinar. This webinar is brought to you by National Operations Center of Excellence. And the goal of today is to provide a quick overview of public communication tools that have been developed, and in the recent past, we'll also look to gather information on your own efforts in order to help build our resources and drive conversation at the peer exchange in a few weeks. As a quick reminder, at NOCO, we offer a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. You can go to NOCO's website to browse through links for TSMO resources and news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can be accessed from there. Now I'll cover a few logistics for today's webinar. We are recording this webinar, and the recording will be available on NOCO's website. All the attendees are encouraged to stay engaged by participating the poll question sessions and type in your question in the Q&A pod. The panelists will try their best to answer the questions. Also, please feel free to enter your name and agency in the chat to say hello to your peers. Now I will hand it over to Maggie to provide an overview of the Transcomm. Maggie, are you here? Hi, Maggie. Can you hear us? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I can't seem to show my screen or my face, but welcome, everybody. I'm Maggie Kaspersky. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at AASHTO. I'm very excited for this topic. I lead the AASHTO Committee on Communications, which is full of exceptional, bright, oh, sorry, it lost me as it made me a panelist. But like I said, I am the liaison for the Committee on Communications. I know some of you folks are here. This group is really bright and ready to talk about TSMO. And I know for us as communications professionals, it's easy to go out there and talk about a big project and a ribbon cutting and things of that nature. But just as importantly, we need to talk about ways that we are finding to operate our systems more efficiently, more effectively, because as we all know, and we have said before, we can't build our way out of our transportation issues. So I know that our groups are really excited to collaborate on this and talk more about TSMO and communicating the value of it. So thank you all for having me and for having our communications folks on the line, and we're really looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Maggie. Now I would like to introduce our speakers for today. Today, discussing the Washington State DOT website will be Pamela Vasudeva, the statewide TSMO development engineer for Washington State. Then we'll have a presentation from Christine Push. She will discuss the TSMO video developed by Texas DOT. Christine is a management analyst at Texas DOT. Then we'll ask Caleb and Chris from Metro Oregon to discuss the TSMO and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative, and they will be joined by a support team from Fair and Peers for that discussion. So further ado, I'll ask Pam if you can share your screen and go ahead with your presentation.
Pam, you're on mute.
Pam, we can see your screen, but we cannot hear you.
Anaf, you may have to unmute yourself from your end, maybe.
Um,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, just need to get my screen back up. Thank you everyone for having me here today. I'm excited to share with you some of the work we've done at WSDOT around communication tools to help further explain what TSMO, or Transportation System Management and Operation, means. Not only how we've applied it in the past, but where we're going with TSMO into the future. So today I wanted to share with you the visioning and history of how we got to our communications platform, and then talk about some of the updates and kind of show you some of the trinkets that we put on our website, and then talk about some future possibilities for our website. But before I do that, I just did want to pause and say, you know, one of the things that's been a challenge at WSDOT is when we talk about TSMO, it's kind of a little bit of everything. It's the kitchen sink, as well as people want to make it what they think it is. And so part of the role of this tool is to help explain to people that it's a multimodal operational and management tool to help us make the most out of the investments that we have. So as you can see here, TSMO is not just about operating our freeways, but it's about creating connectivity for our communities. So my predecessor at WSDOT, Monica Harwood, had this, when she started introducing the idea of TSMO at WSDOT, as I had just alluded to, people have really been confused about what TSMO means. So she wanted to help create a database to share with WSDOT folks to define and illustrate the types of strategies we have at WSDOT to solve our problems. She applied for a SHARP 2 grant and received money for a workforce development tool. And that's where this all unfolded from, and came up with this vision to create a database of TSMO strategies so implementers could better understand how to identify and implement TSMO strategies. And then recently in 2021, we received additional SHARP 2 funds to amend and update our TSMO website. So with that, I wanted to go into details of what the website looks like. You can, in the future, if you're interested in looking at our website, which is really created for WSDOT folks, but also has been used as a tool nationally. You know, we've been doing following the hits of people using the website, and it really is being used by multiple agencies and partners. In fact, it's been used more so by externally than internally. So part of that 2.0 version of 2.0 analysis was to really figure out how we can make it more applicable to our WSDOT folks. And so I'll walk through some of the things that our website contains now. I'm going to have to put it in because the link isn't working for some reason. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull it up on the screen. So it's we have our homepage, which gives you a brief definition of what TSMO means. And at WSDOT, we're really following the FHWA definition of TSMO, which is identifying solutions that are multimodal to support the movement of people to ensure that we have safe and equitable and sustainable transportation for our communities. And then within there, you can look at it, we have 5 categories of defining TSMO, which is emerging technologies, ITS, planning and policy development, TDM, or transportation demand management, and transportation operations. So if you're interested in finding strategies, you can go specifically to any of the different categories of TSMO and go directly to see some of the strategies. We also have a way to filter out the strategy, so you can do it based, once again, on the types of solutions you're interested in, the locations, the cost of solutions that you want, the technologies. If it's something that you want to do internal to WSDOT, if it requires partnerships with other agencies. And so I'll just put in, if we had medium level technology and we want low cost solutions in suburban areas, and then it will give you your different types of solution. Suburban, medium, and it'll filter out. So you can start to think of, it just gives you a way to start brainstorming or coming up with some ideas of things that we can implement. So if we go into ramp closures, then you can go in there and you can see what that strategy is. how you apply it, when to apply it, and then it provides you with some additional resources to learn more about the strategies. This is really just a high clip of what you can do to implement this TSMO strategy. And then if you want more details, including references to our design manuals or traffic manuals, they provide guidance on where you can find additional information. And then another way that you can do it is if you understand, if you're looking at a corridor and you understand that there's capacity and demand constraints, you can go just based on your needs and issues, you can click on the link and it can give you a host of different types of solutions that you can consider to support your capacity and demand needs. One of the things that I'm really excited about in this new round of updates is that we've started to do case studies. A lot of people understand what TSMO is, but what are the benefits of TSMO? So we did case studies across the state to show how we have been implementing TSMO and what types of outcomes they've produced. So for example, here's one on ATM or active transportation. And this is it's really the communication tool to explain how TSMO has supported our regions. These are really just snapshots. We call them use cases because we don't have enough data to really justify it as a return on investment. So we call it more of use cases, and hopefully over a period of time, these were implemented in 2017 onward. And just with COVID and stuff, it was really hard to get a very clear understanding of how things have benefited from our TSMO solutions. So we hope to revisit them in the next coming years to further improve our conversation about the benefits. And then we also, as we make more updates to TSMO strategies, we have it on here too. And then just a little high clip of what TSMO is and who to contact. So that's the TSMO website, and it's something that we have very limited funding, so tried to do the best we could with our with the help of FHWA, but do hope to continue to advance this platform. Some of the things that if we do get funding in the future would be to do a deeper dive to understand what our divisional needs are, so cross divisions, communications, planning, design, operations, maintenance, just understanding what TSMO means to them and creating a better clearinghouse of solutions that they can start to consider. We want to add additional resources to support evolving and emerging technologies. So I shared with you the types of technologies, types of strategies we have on there. We want to go in and further populate those and make them current and relevant to today. Things are always changing, so want to keep them new and up to date. And then those case studies, we'll first of all revisit them as we get more data, the ones that we have on the website, and continue to show the benefits of investing in TSMO, and then continue to add more resources as FHWA as well as WSDOT creates more resources around TSMO. We want to continue to put those onto our website. So with that, yeah, stay tuned if you're interested in learning more. I have a link to the TSMO WA website. For some reason, if you put www in, it's not working. I'm not sure why. So just use the tsmowa.org path and you should be able to get to our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. If you have any questions for Pam, please feel free to type them in the Q&A pod at the bottom. And at this time, I would request Christine to share her screen and go ahead with your presentation.
You guys all see my screen. So my name is Christine Bush. I am, as mentioned, a management analyst in a traffic safety division at TxDOT. I started that role in March, and I just started getting involved with TSMO in April. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about an introductory video that TxDOT developed. My predecessor, Barbara Russell, really developed to promote TSMO. And it's also part of the reason why I got involved, because I attended a training and it was part of that training. I'll talk a little bit about that. So as you'll see, I think there's a chat. So at its best, TSMO involves a lot of people working together to achieve a common goal. So we'd ideally like to integrate it seamlessly into various processes throughout the organization. But that means we have to reach a lot of people. So for that reason, TxDOT developed this 5-minute video to help promote the program and share basic information about it. It helps us effectively and efficiently reach a large audience. So this clip here comes from that video, and we've included some screenshots throughout the presentation to give you a sense of it. You can find the video on the TxDOT TSMO website. You could do a web search on Google or for TxDOT TSMO, or you can look on our website as well, and it should help you find it pretty easily. So when you watch the video, you'll see that there are engaging graphics and a limited number of text pointing out key points. The video starts with an overview of larger issues like safety and congestion. It also provides examples of larger initiatives and implemented by TxDOT. It then relates these to TSMO, showing how everyone how their role relates to TSMO. It provides a definition, examples, basic overview of its implementation and some of the benefits. And it also relates TSMO to longer term solutions such as real-time and predictive performance measures at the TMC, but also relating it to AI, connected vehicles and automated vehicles. And then we have kind of snazzy, futuristic animations with that. So really, as seen at the bottom, the video is used to educate, provide people just with a basic overview, 5-minute overview of TSMO, motivate the stakeholders, because we do need a lot of people involved, encourage collaboration and implementation. Again, that's key to success. Engaging the audience for better motivation, and then also making it easy to share. So people can easily share it with a link. Even if someone doesn't know much about TSMO, they can share that. And so we can reach larger audiences more effectively. So, in a while. It's taken a while to get to the next. Oh no. It's crashing on me. Hold on. We can continue without the presentation, and then we can get to it when it restarts. But so the video is a tool that can be used in. Hold on. Let me make this happen again. Well, okay, so yeah. The video is a tool that can be used in workshops, meetings, presentations. It can be shared online through email, websites. It allows TxDOT to introduce the TSMO effectively, and it's really ideally used at the beginning of the process. A lot of times it's for people who are new to TSMO, but it can also be used kind of as a refresher to remind people more involved and with more experience of TSMO, get them motivated again, provide them a few new details. And let me see if I can share my screen again. So hold on a second. So this is a video clip. Hopefully you guys can see that again. Yeah, so it's again an engagement tool and a promotional tool. Again, we're trying to engage that diverse set of stakeholders, because that's crucial to really effectively implementing TSMO. It's intended to speak to a broad audience, because we have to reach lots of different people, but it's also intended to initiate a dialogue. So we can show the video and then afterwards ask questions. And by doing so, we kind of get an idea of what speaks to those stakeholders who just watched that video. And then we can kind of start focusing in on those issues and addressing those. Once we have their attention, we can better explain concepts in detail. It also helps a little bit to communicate policies. It not only outlines current strategies, but also illustrates TxDOT forward-thinking vision for transportation in TxDOT. So far, we've used it at numerous kickoff meetings. We've used it, our consultants have used it, mainly for the TSMO program plans. We had all our districts develop those, and so it was used there, at the beginning process. And these meetings that we held, they included TxDOT district staff in operations, construction, maintenance, TP&D, planning, design, and it also included external stakeholders who would vary district to district, but MPOs, cities, counties, emergency management agencies, and first responders. Again, a whole range of stakeholders with very different interests and backgrounds. You know, and then we've also had our consultants develop websites as they were developing these plans. They included that very easily on their website. And again, we have it on our TxDOT website. We've used it at the capability maturity model workshop this spring, which is where I first was introduced to TSMO. And it was also used during an ITS America user group meeting. So as I mentioned, the idea came from my predecessor, Barbara Russell. Jamie Ma, my supervisor, also was involved. The development of the video was, we hired AECOM to do that for us, and so they were highly involved. But we also have contracts with AS, Kimley Horn, and Arcadis, so they and their work with and the districts also helped to shape the video. You know, we needed to make sure when we were developing the video, first everyone agreed on, you know, purpose and the relevant TSMO strategies. You know, we wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page, and then we kind of started focusing more and more on the details. But we started looking at the TSMO strategic plan. We also looked at the missions and larger initiatives, again shown on the slide, just making sure everything aligned. Then we also were looking, some of the people on the team were involved in larger nationwide initiatives with TSMO, and so they had that background that they were able to pull in and kind of provide that expertise. Yeah, and so in order to develop the tool, we kind of used they used a storyboard, just a Word document. It kind of showed the length of each segment, exactly what was going to be said, and then the graphics that were going to be used. And so then that went back and forth between the entire team various times, and as they figured out what to put in. And then once that was kind of agreed upon, they actually started really the major production of the video. And then that went through various iterations. So to create a 5-minute video is very difficult because it's such a short amount of time, but we really felt that it was really important to keep it short and sweet. Yeah. So challenges we encountered and how we addressed those challenges, and kind of lessons learned from that. So one of the things, like I mentioned before, is complex topics. You know, there's a lot of complex topics that are covered, and creating a video that was both informative and easily understood was difficult. So even the question sometimes, what is TSMO, can be difficult to explain, depending on what part you're talking about. It's important to balance that depth and simplicity to communicate the message effectively. And so this video, it covers the basics, but it doesn't try to cover too much. So for example, the capability maturity model, it's an important part of implementing TSMO, but we didn't even touch upon it in the video. That's something for later discussions. This is just the beginning, and we kind of recognize that. Aligning stakeholder needs. As mentioned, there's a lot of people with a lot of different interests and backgrounds who need to be reached and who need to get involved. So we needed to make a video that would speak to a broad audience and resonate with people from different backgrounds, levels of understanding, priorities, and interests. So to do so, the video touches upon a broad range of topics. It presents common goals like safety and congestion reduction, and relates these to policies that guide stakeholders' work, hopefully to foster a sense of camaraderie in achieving common goals. Engaging the audience, again, that was a really important part. So we used graphic elements, and that's, you know, very, very important. They were carefully chosen to complement the narrative. Yeah, I mean, and I think that a lot of times people question how TSMO relates to people's roles. So also tying that to people's roles. And we have kind of a segment kind of showing, and it was on another slide, showing just the different sectors it touches upon, kind of trying to pull in as much different work in there to really show, yes, this is related to what you do, and engage them that way. And then the other thing too is with the graphics, we tried not to choose graphics that would clearly indicate that that was something from one specific district. We wanted to use very general graphics that could apply and that could be anywhere. So not to kind of distance anyone or try to, or have anyone interpret it as showing priority to anyone. Time constraints, obviously, like I said before, putting together a 5-minute video explaining TSMO is very difficult. So yeah, we had to just be very careful with what we put in there. And there was a lot of work put into that, just having a very concise message. Limited resources, of course. I mean, there's always a limited budget. So we really try to be as effective about developing the video. Part of it was just that process, kind of making sure everyone was on the same page before starting major production. But then the other thing too, and this goes to the last point, is we wanted to create a long-lasting adaptable video. So we want this video to be in place for a while and usable for a while. And so, we use visuals, again, not showing any software that's state of the art right now, or any hardware or anything like that. Electronics. We instead, when we showed our futuristic TMC, we had just very futuristic graphics, almost kind of very way out there, so that it wouldn't be dated. And so that was one thing. Yeah, and so that was, again, just addressing all these challenges required careful script development, effective use of visuals, and it was iterative refinement. So it was a lot of work kind of moving it forward. Okay, so what feedback have we received? So generally the video seems to have served its purpose. Viewers seem more informed, engaged, motivated. Some have commented on the concise presentation of complex topics. Others have mentioned that the graphics and animations were really helpful in explaining the intricate concepts like the emerging technologies and innovative strategies. And not just the metropolitan districts, which are usually more involved with kind of more innovative things, sometimes partly because of the money. But even more, the smaller and rural districts seem to get excited about that modernization of TSMO, which was great to hear. And the other thing too is the video kind of helps to show people that they're already involved in TSMO. And so kind of when they hear, okay, TSMO, we have to implement something else, this is more time that's going to be taken up. But when you show them, hey, you're already involved and this is not as difficult as you might think it would be, this is more obtainable than you think, and that's also very valuable. But also it has its limitations. Really the video is just the beginning of the conversation. So like I mentioned, I only recently got involved in TSMO. I only recently heard about TSMO. I'm a planner by background, so I only recently got involved in traffic operations. So I first heard about TSMO at that CMM workshop in March, and that included the video. But that's kind of what it inspired me to get involved with TSMO. I volunteered afterwards, and it wasn't just the video. It was that entire training. So this is only a part of what's really needed to get people involved. And, I saw other people in the workshop kind of reacting similarly. And then also I was asking, as I was preparing for this presentation, I asked our consultants about their experiences in sharing the video without sharing my experiences. And they said something similar, that, viewers are likely going to have questions after the video. They may need additional explanation of what's included in TSMO, even questions about how to implement the strategies. But a lot of them have a heightened interest, and they may ask for additional training opportunities or activities because of that. And so, I wasn't the only one who left that room that day with the CMM workshop, kind of both filled with both excitement and questions. So this video is an engagement tool as much as it's an educational tool. And it's just one piece in reaching the broad audience needed to implement TSMO effectively. And so that's it for my presentation, and I'll take questions later.
Thank you, Christine. If you guys have any questions for Christine, please feel free to type in the Q&A pod. Now I'm going to invite Caleb and Chris to share the screen and go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you, Anaf. And Peter will ready our slides here. And as he does, I'll just sort of describe what's on the first slide. But I really appreciate you inviting us to present during this TSMO and Public Communications webinar. We appreciate being able to reflect on work and share this TSMO equity tree. While this tool was part of the planning process, it helped engage stakeholders and provided a focal point for our regional partners to develop projects. And that's just the first slide there. Peter, hopefully you're able to get us started. And we can just continue it with introductions. My name is Caleb Winter. I'm from Metro here in Portland, Oregon, and planner with TSMO. And I liked Christine's reflections on where she got started. And I go back to a demand management career that led to TSMO as we did our strategy update. And then this topic is where we I got to work with Fair and Peers and do another work on another strategy update through the year. Majority of the work was through 2021. Thank you, Peter. I'll turn it over to you for introduction.
Sure, thank you. I'm Peter. I'm with Fair and Peers, our creative studio group. We do a lot of graphic design, kind of visual storytelling, and just kind of distilling complex ideas or sometimes complicated ideas, convoluted ideas into things that are easier to understand for the target audience that we're aiming for. And so you'll see a lot of that shown in the work in the slides coming up soon here.
Great. And my name is Chris Gergich. I was the project manager on the effort leading that from the Fair and Peers consultant side, working directly with Caleb and those at Metro.
Thanks. Next slide, Peter. So we want to thank NOCO first for the 2022 TSMO Award in the category of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was for our planning work, and we're happy to share what we know, what we learned along the way with states, MPOs, cities, counties, how we developed our strategies and how we're implementing projects based on incorporating equity. But then back to you, Chris, for kind of how we got started, where this TSMO equity tree came from.
Awesome. So the next slide there, this is sort of an overview of our equity tree at a glance on the slide here. But when we started working on this with Caleb and I sat down on sort of my first talks with Peter of what I wanted our deliverables to look like, what I wanted it to feel. I wanted to see the Metro region really represented well in everything that we were doing. I really wanted a cohesive document that everything went together, but I wanted it to be approachable. And I wanted different people who were going to use the document and use the project that we were doing in different ways, being able to go to the specific part that they wanted and really take that and make it something that they could sort of walk away with and use it as a cut sheet, as a guidance for whatever they were going to go and do. When we sat down and had that conversation, my thought was, hey, let's make it like a comic book or, something that reflects maybe the Lord of the Rings or some sort of hero's journey to the end of this grand vision that we all share together and how we're going to achieve that. So just given the work that Metro had done previously, we started with equity. We started trying to create a decision tree on equity itself, and then that actually became a tree, a real tree that represented some of what you would see around the Portland area. I really liked the overall visual of the tree, but also it changed the conversation. I think when we normally approached equity and transportation projects, we would go at something to identify what the needs were and identify what we were going to do, and then what the solutions could be, and then evaluate them for their equitable impacts. Instead, we really started with the equitable questions at the bottom of the tree, and that helped to really flow through the entire plan. And it affected even the way we communicated the rest of the plan throughout the rest of the document. But I think I want to just pass it over to Peter to sort of talk about how we put together what it looks like and of those. So you can see here are the routes that we were talking about, the context, choices, and voices. Yeah, and Peter, why don't you take it away there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. I think in working together with Chris, you know, when I hear non-graphic designers throw these really cool ideas, heroes, quests, and Lord of the Rings, like, so it's like, how can I take that you know, the spirit of that and kind of translate into something visual and that makes sense? And so that this is what we came up with together, and it's like, and it's kind of like almost like a literal map journey, and it helped. It's a visual metaphor, but it in a lot of ways helped shape the design of the rest of the document. And so, and it just helps. I think Christine mentioned that something that resonated with me is like engaging with the audience, right? And keeping them engaged. And so this is something I felt was kind of fun, easy to understand, a very approachable way of doing it. And so this became our table of contents, and leading up to the tree, again, a different metaphor for a tree that actually became a literal tree. This is what we started off with. Again, another example of, you know, what I get and how can we distill this into using a storytelling approach, make it easier to understand. And so this is the tree that we had shown earlier, just a little more detail. And again, it's kind of started at the roots, and it moves up the tree, through the different sections, the plans, the strategies, and the actions. Anything you guys wanted to add, Caleb or Chris, to that?
I will just say, I know in order to develop that tree, we worked, you know, with a stakeholder group internally with Metro, as well as a lot of stakeholders that Metro works with, different agencies, transit agencies, communities. And I know Caleb worked hand in hand with a lot of community-based organizations to really get their feedback while we were developing this tree, so that we weren't doing it in a vacuum and then saying, hey, this is how we're going to make decisions on equity overall. The other thing I think you'll notice is it didn't end up with a yes or no at the top of the tree of like, oh yeah, that's an equitable action, or no, that's not an equitable action. It's more of a, well, how do we consider equity as when we're doing the TSMO actions overall and we're implementing this plan? And what do we do if we double down on our, you know, on some of the consequences that we were trying to undo with the plan overall? You know, there's always things that happen that maybe you just didn't expect to happen, and giving us a way to sort of get back down to the roots and start again on the tree and work back through the process overall. Caleb, did you want to add anything?
Just that, yeah, this takes, you know, a lot of policy, obviously, at the regional level that's adopted by our elected Metro Council and puts it into, you know, we really wanted it to be one page, which, you know, certainly was the challenge with everything that, you know, you probably had designed at first and then condensed into this. But it's, you know, we wanted it one page so we can keep returning to it, taking questions from it, depending on the circumstances of our next, you know, TSMO work. So I think we have some more of that to share later, but yeah, just really great to, you know, expand. It's obviously a lot of hard questions to ask. And so we want to, you know, have that be the harder thinking. This is the tool for harder thinking through each of our TSMO steps.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And just a couple more things about the document from a design perspective. We developed a set of icons that captured, the slides catch up here, for goals and objectives. And then it was just to kind of make it, again, more approachable, the content more approachable, and wherever they occurred, they were reused throughout the strategy, the whole document, to kind of create that cohesive feel. And Chris alluded to earlier a little bit also that we designed it the best we could. In similar vein, in the beginning, we had the journey map of the hero's quest, right? So they were broken down. We wanted to make it so that, you know, if you wanted a piece of the report or the strategy, you can pull it out, and the best we could design it so it was a standalone section and didn't rely too heavily on other sections. And so kind of compartmentalize it a little bit to help make it easier to understand, and also break away if you needed just a part of it. And again, the icons that you saw earlier were reused whenever they were called upon to represent either the goals and or the performance metrics. And those are just some of the design decisions and choices that we decide together to help make it the most kind of fun, easy to understand, and engaging document as well, because there's a lot to cover, and so we wanted to kind of make it digestible. That was it.
Awesome. And then if you can bring back up the rest of the PowerPoint, I just wanted to cover real quick how this ended up, the equity tree ended up getting through the rest of the report. You see that we had the context, choices, and voices there. There are also levels of the tree. So I think if you can skip ahead a couple slides. This was just our overall process. There's one more there. Maybe a couple more. Let's see. I want to get to this one right here. So at the end, we ended up having a bunch of actions because we just, everyone was putting things down that came to mind. We wanted to keep the process open and really think about what these actions, could do and how they would move through the different objectives that we had identified. When we started sorting them, we realized that they really fit into three kind of pots: the accountability and evaluation, or solution development, and then just identifying the needs and planning of what we needed to do. And those really reflected the three different levels of the tree. I think they were reflected in the goals, in the objectives that we ended up with underneath those goals, and even the metrics themselves. I think we identified that we needed more data to just measure how we were approaching equity overall. So again, I think even on the microcosm of the agencies that we were working with and their representatives, the tree and the way it was set up helped to change the way that we were all approaching it, and I don't think in ways that we were cognitive of at the time. And
so
Caleb,
yeah, thanks, Chris. So this is, obviously hard to read, but I just, draw your attention to the right side where you see like an icon of the equity tree. And this is what applicants applying to our regional funds for TSMO saw as they filled out various parts of the application, which is the blue part. So you can see this questions around context, sort of for the purpose and need of the project, really elicited a response. How this one is particularly from Portland State University, how they're using and going to modify how they look at data, which was kind of a whole section of the tree to really listen to what, who is at the table, who is defining, whether the quantitative information really answers the question or qualitative is needed or vice versa. So it helped, kind of reinforce and draw attention back, just because we had been working, with, through the strategy, and now we're here implementing. So this project scored very well. We had community representatives review it, and they were very, in tune with where the criteria was incorporating equity. It was 50 out of 100 points total for equity criteria across the applications. Next slide, please. And this is, again, taking the planning work that Fair and Pierce did in developing this on the left column to the project selection questions embedded in applications, and over to three, sort of the bubbles on the right that are the actual recommended projects we ended up with, and how they demonstrate we, got the outcome we wanted. In the first bubble, how does equity shape the purpose and need for the project? That's in the middle column. So Oregon DOT research found that Black Oregonians have twice the pedestrian fatality rate than average Oregonians. And then FHWA research says we can reduce 13% pedestrian vehicle crashes at intersections by giving pedestrians a head start and keeping the lights red. So we have a project going in to do a lot of pedestrian head starts or keeping signals red and avoiding, turn conflicts. The next bubble, voice need, who was or will be included in the decisions for the project, and does this project remove barriers or fill gaps in data? So participants will gather accessibility data for navigation apps with sidewalk conditions like slope or where curb cuts are located, and put those in a format that can be used in navigation tools. The fourth, let's see, choices. How does this project improve mobility or access for underrepresented people? We've got results from TriMet's machine learning transit signal priority system that shows on their new FX2 division line, they're getting as much as 8 minutes back for riders in their journey. So 8 minutes back in their day. And without that system, buses would be using 14% more fuel, more diesel. So, this travels through an equity focus area defined geographically, and we have more projects on the way to make use of that technology. And the last bubble with evaluation and accountability, sort of at the top of the tree, Clackamas County illustrated how they'll invest in safer intersections along routes shown in purple on that map, very small, I know, but where they're higher than average county averages for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and people with low incomes. So the next slide, please. We got some feedback recently. I asked, so how's it going? The first response was it is commendable, but in using it to work through TSMO project applications, they didn't travel from the roots to the top. They used slightly different, and they categorized some things. What are the outcomes? What is the distribution of outcomes? Who is involved? How do we measure those outcomes? So, a bit of simplifying, but for a specific purpose of project application, and, navigating the tree from maybe middle right to the top, and then over to the left, and then to the bottom, but still useful in its application. Another response, I really like the equity tree. We used it in a workshop. We got everyone thinking about equity. Does a project incorporate equitable outcomes? And, this comment, my takeaway is that it's hard to shift one's perspective to think about how their project has an equity related effect, good or bad, and that change is hard. And I think, again, keeping it simple, one page, something we can refer back to often, helps what we find hard. And then I think that we're ready for almost our last slide. Can you go one more, Peter? Thanks. And Peter, I sort of had some design lessons here. I think some of them you've covered, but the first three, anything there that you want to comment on?
Yeah, I think Chris mentioned that it's a thought process and not yes or no. And I think we incorporate that into the design. We could consider a more interactive format, maybe something digital, interactive, using coding and whatnot, and other frameworks, but we end up not going down that route. But that's something that we would consider in the future. But that has some kind of accessibility implications too, like who has a phone, with that can do interactive things, so there's always drawbacks. And so that was one of the reflections we had, like what media we use it on. And ultimately the one pager was universal. You could see on a screen, but also you can print it out. And so I think it worked out well for us, but definitely options for kind of exploring new avenues for that interactivity. So that was that one. Caleb.
I can add, Peter, on the
yeah.
Second parts there. Just, it is a complex tree. It is a lot. I think the yes and no answer, we see that reflected in the user's first comment that Caleb went over. It as engineers, that's my background is in engineering. We want the yes or no answer. We want the firm, this is what it is. And I think when it comes to equity and TSMO, that's not always the case. So that's going to make some folks uncomfortable. And just being able to sort of talk through that, I think, is a great starting point. That kind of gets me down to the third line. The fact that we really started at this equity and we ended up with it showing up in all the levels of the plan without explicitly asking for it to be organized that way. For me, I think that just my lesson learned is we should really be doing this more often on sort of all of our projects, on any sort of planning or any sort of design project, is to start with this decision tree and questions overall.
Thanks, Chris and Peter. And I just had a, this sort of third and or fourth and fifth, forming your network as a TSMO program manager. The relationships I form with community representatives, are really going to help. And then, budgeting my time, attending events, extending opportunities to community-based organizations is, something I've been doing with this work. And then reciprocate at a scale that values people's time, their professional experience, and lived experience. And so we created, for the scoring of our TSMO applications, we created mini agreements that are around $4,000 for longer term, more like a year's worth of assistance, and really getting deeper into some support for projects. We do, I was going to say that some work FHWA operations did, like a 4 or 5 pager linking TSMO and transportation equity. I'll put that in the chat because I think it's valuable. And I know work is going. Luana Brashears from ITE is working on an equity and transportation operations toolbox. And we had early conversations, and Luana was really inspired by the equity tree and helped sort of structure the toolbox with it. So it's really great to hear how it lives on. And I think with that, we just had a discussion. Thank you, and some contact information, which we can put in the chat too. Thanks.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter, for a lovely presentation. If you have any questions for them, please feel free to type the questions in the Q&A pod. And at this point, I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about the upcoming Peer Exchange. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oop, it went away.
1 second, I think.
We can see it now.
The problem is I cannot see it. Oh, I think I can see it. So, okay. Is it the full screen? Is it the presentation?
Yes, full screen. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So, as we have discussed before, we will be having a in-person peer exchange on public communications and TSMO on October 18th in Portland, Maine, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I'll just go briefly over it, what we are expecting in the peer exchange. It starts at 9 a.m. as I've said, Eastern time, with a little bit of welcome and goals about Transcomm leadership and local and national support, followed by a panel discussion presentation on and different audience engagement activities on communicating the benefits of TSMO, and followed by the traveler information section, where different traveler information programs, the winter weather and work zones, and the use of social media will be discussed. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with a roundtable session on different additional topics and regional partnerships, wireless emergency alerts, highlighting TSMO investments, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The main 3 sections will cover the benefits of TSMO, effective communication of complex TSMO concepts, feedback from stakeholders into the communication strategy, and public perception. The traveler information section will cover leveraging social media for travel information, public engagement, discussion on implementation of innovative technologies and emerging trends, and collaboration for improved travel information sharing. And finally, the rapid roundtable will discuss about how to foster regional partnerships in TSMO, introduction of wireless emergency alerts, tailoring messages for TSMO investments, and ensuring accessibility and inclusivity. So at this point, I'll stop sharing my screen. And there's a audience engagement session here. You're gonna see some poll questions on your screen. Just let me know if you see it. Yeah, I can see people starting to answer. The first question is, does your organization have a dedicated web resource for TSMO operation? Please feel free and go ahead to answer your question. I can see some answers coming in. If you scroll down, you can see the other questions like, do you plan to upgrade or build a TSMO operations web page in the next year? Yes, no, or not sure. I think answers are coming in there as well. Then if you scroll down, you will see another question about a dedicated web page. If you have a TSMO operations dedicated web page, can you share the URL? And then question number 4, does your organization have a dedicated video for TSMO operations? Number 5, do you plan to develop a TSMO operations video in the next year? And number 6, if you have a TSMO or operations dedicated video, please share the URL. Then number 7, does your agency currently have a diversity, equity, and inclusion program focused on the traveling public? Please provide any additional outreach or engagement materials or resources you may have relevant to operations and public communications. Question number 9, how do you prioritize your communication efforts when conveying the benefits of TSMO to key stakeholders? When building a new TSMO programs, which aspect do you consider most critical for successful implementation? What resources identification strategy do you find most effective in TSMO initiatives? I see a lot of engagement. Thank you for participating in the poll questions. Which platform do you find most effective for travel information during winter weather and work zones? And how crucial do you believe regional partnerships are in advancing effective transportation strategies? I think we have most of our answers. We're still answering. You can just scroll down and put in your answer. And if someone have missed it by mistake, I'll send the poll in an email. If you want to participate, I will send it via email to all the participants again to capture the results. Okay, so I think we have a lot of answers. Let's end the poll here and see about the results. Okay, so we can see about 39%, about 42% participant doesn't have a dedicated web resource. 39% do. Some people are not sure, and we plan to. If anyone is planning to upgrade the web page, a lot of people are unsure about it, but we can see a response about yes and no. Then there's about the dedicated video. 35%. The participants said yes, 42% said no, and mostly unsure about plan to develop TSMO operations video. Definitely can take some learning points from Christine's presentation though. Does your agency currently have a DEI program? 15% said yes. A lot of not sure and maybes here. And how do you prioritize your communication efforts when conveying the benefits of TSMO to key stakeholders? We can see that 67% said utilizing a combination of storytelling and data-driven approaches, and then tailoring message to specific stakeholder interests. Okay, and then we see building a new TSMO program. Which aspect do you consider most critical for successful implementation? You can see 60% said that collaborating with key stakeholders from the outset, and 48% said about establishing effective communication channels within the team. What resource identification strategy do you find most effective in TSMO initiatives? We can see that the collaboration part again came up. And then the next highest answer is either conducting comprehensive needs assessment and utilizing technological tools for resource tracking. And what platform do you find most effective for disseminating travel information during winter weather and work zones? 65% is a combination of social media, travel information website, and traditional media. Okay, and then finally, how crucial do you believe regional partnerships are in advancing effective transportation strategies? 61% said extremely important. All right, so we see a lot of good responses. If someone missed the poll question scrolling down, I apologize. I'll send it to you via an email so that you can participate. All right, so I think we had a good opportunity to discuss about what's coming on in our in-person peer exchange, and it's good discussion. And I would like to thank all our panelists for their lovely presentation, very informative presentation. Thank you, Maggie, for chipping in, talking about Transcomm. Looking forward to meet you during the peer exchange. And thank you everyone for participating, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.